What's going on, everybody? It's the Hook Cam back again with another film breakdown, and today we're going to be taking a look at Chris Jones, a very big piece of this Kansas City defense. Recently, it came out that he wanted a big-time contract, looking for one that's about $20 million a year, 20 sheets. And I don't know if Kansas City is going to be able to afford that. I honestly don't. I hope they do, because I do love seeing him play for the Chiefs. I think that he is a phenomenal defensive tackle. He played defensive end before that when they were in a 3-4 defense. He can really do it all defensively. His expertise, though, in my opinion, is his pass rush, and we will see that as we kind of go through some of these clips. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I hope that he stays in Kansas City. I don't know if Kansas City is going to have that kind of financial power to go and re-sign him with some of the big contracts they have coming up, particularly number 15. He is not bad at tackle football. He will demand a big-time contract, and he deserves every penny. And of course, you want to see a guy like Chris Jones get paid. And I know for a lot of Chiefs fans, they wanted him to stay in Kansas City, and I completely understand that. And I would like to see him stay in Kansas City as well. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this video. But first, you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to my channel, The Hook Cam, as well as to Jackson Kruger Sports. That would just mean the world to both of us. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this film. Chris Jones, right here, he's lining up, really is like a 4-eye, I would call this. Again, this is more of a pass rush front, and that's something that I really saw from him this year in Kansas City, is how much they used him on third down and how good he was working against guards in the NFL. Not bad guards either, decent guards in the NFL that he was doing a good job of generating pressure, not necessarily always getting the sack, always getting the tick on the stat sheet, but he had his hand in every game and in every snap. That was a big time snap. You want a guy like Chris Jones on the field. So here we go against the Oakland Raiders, working against number 71. Talk about just raw power and great job with his hands. That's one thing that really sticks out to me. So good with these hands. Really, really is. Coming up, that little shuffle right there, kind of that little hesitation. We're trying to get that punch from the offensive lineman. He's punching a little outside of his strike zone right now, right? We're reaching a little bit there. Chris Jones, you can see that little white spot right there. That's his gloves on his hand, and he's going to push the hands of that the hands of that guard away from him, get skinny a little bit, come up and make a play on it. And that, like I said, that's something that you see time and time again from Chris Jones, is the quick hands, the quick feet, and that explosiveness off the football. Here's a great example of that, again, against the Raiders from week 2. He's going to be working on Colton Miller here, just lined up in this 3-tech on the outside shade of this guard. He's going to be pulling, and we're just trying to knife in here, and he does just that. Very difficult for a tackle to come down and to make that block when Chris Jones is there, and when any defensive lineman is there, getting off the rock that quickly and getting into the backfield that fast. Just going on to more of his domination in the passing game, in his pass rush. Here against the Lions, obviously they had their struggles last year. He's going to give that hesitation, right, that almost like that juke to the outside here. And we're going to get this guard's shoulders to turn. He's planted. He's moving his entire body this way. Again, violence with the hands, pushing those hands off and up, and then coming inside of that, making a play on the football. This is probably my favorite sack of his from last year. I mean, this is from a defensive line standpoint. Obviously, I am an offensive line coach, so this gives me nightmares. But from a defensive line standpoint, this is just great to see, man. I mean, we're working right down the center of this guy. The leverage, the extension, keep your legs churning, and like he doesn't even have to touch Kirk Cousins. He's going down on his own. 65's doing the work for him. Boom, we're just churning our feet, pumping, going right through 65 there, and getting a big-time sack on the play. You can see how fired up he is after that. I would be fired up too. So here we go, moving on against the Titans. And again, what am I talking about, man? Those hands. And that's really, like I said, where does he start to dominate? Where does he really separate himself? That quick little hesitation. We pop up out of our stance. He's going to be a little bit higher, right, than most other guys who are just trying to throw a bull rusher working, and he gives those hands, moving them across. And again, with the protection in this, really what we're doing, and with this guard, they're all fanning out, right? They're working out a gap, and out a gap. Well, as we punch through with our hands here, we work into this gap, which this guard isn't responsible for. It's the center. But he's too far away because of how we aligned. Now we're working through both of those guys and getting in on a sack against Ryan Tannehill. Here we go against New England, working against Shaq Mason. Well, actually really working against the center. I can't remember this dude's name. I want to say Ferentz. But, the Kansas City did this where they lined up 3 guys to one side of the center, and it creates a lot of problems. It really does, because you're kind of predetermining where the offensive line is going to slide, which means that you're going to have have openings on the backside of this thing. Now, when you got a guy like Chris Jones who's just going to work straight up right through that center, be big and physical, get some heat on 12, doesn't really matter which way they're sliding the line of scrimmage. That's just how it's going to go. We're going to be better physically, or it's going to be a better matchup for us. Now, against the 49ers, and I didn't use a lot of, against Houston, I believe he was out. Against Tennessee, he was nursing an ankle injury. He really didn't get a lot of snaps. So I really went through and I kind of combed through the Super Bowl with a fine-tooth comb and really saw what snaps was he in on, what snaps was he effective on, and how important was he in arguably the most significant game in Kansas City Chiefs history. I would say it is. Right? First Super Bowl win ever. So here we go, working against 68 here in this situation. Chris Jones, once again, the hands. And I know I'm repeating myself, but really this is one of those things where this is a major play in the game, right? We get the hands off him, we generate that pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is what I'm talking about, where does it always show up in the stat sheet? No, it's not going to. Right? We force Jimmy Garoppolo to step up. He's getting rid of a ball that he doesn't want to. We force an interception. And stuff like that are so important and so vital to how valuable a guy like Chris Jones is. The other thing is stuff like this. And a lot of times when he's pass rushing, what I'll notice is that he almost is in like a spy situation, right? In a situation like this is exactly what I'm talking about. We're working away from this, and he's not necessarily getting upfield. He's not really generating a lot of pressure, so we get our hands up. He's 6'6". I mean, he's going to get in passing lanes. Here we see them on a wide zone. This is getting later into the game. This is just domination right here against the center. Center's trying to work and reach out to his play side shoulder pad. Chris Jones is not having it, working and making a play on that. And you can tell in this that he's not firing at 100%. He's definitely not. You can see some other clips where he's going to be chasing down ball carriers, and he's just not moving 100%. But this is something that I thought was really interesting, is that, you know, Spagnuolo does a really good job of disguising his pressures, right? And I've diagnosed this play before on my channel, right? But we're going across the center's face here with 92 to Passanio. We're working straight up field with Chris Jones, working straight up field here. We're working up with Sorensen, but really he's just there to occupy the back. But what we're doing is we're basing this entire pressure off of this gap right here, this A gap. We're working across the center's face, which means we're going to open it up this way with the center. And Chris Jones, we're just going to let him do him, right? Work up field, work right down this dude's midline. Don't give him a chance to pop off here and try and get a hand on 56. We want that to be clean, which is exactly what we do. And I'm just kind of trying to show you guys how much you can base off of Chris Jones. It's not necessarily always him getting the sack. Like I said, it's not always necessarily him getting that tick on the stat sheet. More often than not, it's what you can do around him and what he does for your defense, what he's opening up for backers, what he's opening up for pressure. So that's really the film breakdown portion of this, you know, where I think he could go. You know, Detroit is a place to me that makes a lot of sense. They have the cap room to go and sign a guy like that. He is franchise tagged for right now with Kansas City, but I don't think that he will play if he continues to stay franchise tagged. I really don't. And once again, I'm not saying that this is, you know, I want him to leave. No, I don't want him to leave Kansas City. I think he's been a phenomenal Chief. He's been everything you could ask for since coming out of Mississippi State. But, you know, it's time for a guy like this to get paid. And that's really one of the things that you like to see, you know, being kind of an unbiased football fan and kind of leaving your emotions out of it. You know, you have guys who put their blood, sweat, and tears into a franchise. And, you know, whether they win or not, they're still there every day. They're still playing their hearts out. They're giving their best every Sunday, every day in practice, and you want to see a guy go like that and get paid. You know, and that's kind of how I feel with Chris Jones. He's been there with Kansas City for the last 4 years. You know, really when they're on the upswing, very, very happy that he goes and gets his Super Bowl. And again, I really do hope that he goes and gets paid, whether that's in Kansas City or not. But like I said, of course, I would love to see him stay in red and stay in Kansas City, which I think he's expressed before. But, you know, you open up a very interesting can of worms when Le'Veon Bell goes and holds out. You know, how that affects everybody else is really, really interesting, because from Kansas City's perspective, what leverage do they really have in this situation? Yes, you have Chris Jones franchise tag, but he has came out and said, I don't want to play under the franchise tag. So now you have this guy who is a phenomenal talent. He's a legit, I would say, top 5 defensive tackle in the league. And now you almost don't have the leverage to go and trade him if you really want to move him. now you're in a situation where you either sign them for big money, which is going to affect what they can do with other players down the road. Not saying that they're not going to re-sign Patrick Mahomes, because they 100% will. I don't doubt that for a second. But it's going to affect how it's going to affect other guys like a Mitchell Schwartz, guys like, Tyrann Mathieu. It's going to affect guys like Frank Clark is a great example. It's going to affect a lot of those guys. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Kansas City deals with this entire situation. Like I said, phenomenal football player. Hopefully I showed you guys a little bit of what he brings to the table. But what the future holds for Chris Jones, I honestly don't know. Again, hopefully he stays in Kansas City. But at the end of the day, you love seeing a guy like that get paid. Quality human being. He's done nothing but work hard for that franchise. So Chris Jones, phenomenal football player. Very interested to see what happens with him in the future. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, if you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to my channel, The Hook Cam, as well as to Jackson Kruger Sports, that would just mean the world to both of us. Getting a little Chiefs content out there. It's been a minute, Chiefs fans. Good to be back. Good to see you guys again. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. Stay safe out there. Wash those hands, and I will see you next time.